Hello there, beautiful pixels. My name is Alaydriem, and welcome back to Minecraft Bedrock Hardcore, where we are joined by 38 content creators here on Season 2 of the Bedrock Legends server. And the question on everyone's mind is, do you have what it takes to survive an entire month in Minecraft Bedrock Hardcore? We have 10 new creators with us this season, and we want to know, can we keep them alive? We've done it once before, and it's time for us to do it yet again. So, before we get started with our first 100 days here in Minecraft Bedrock Hardcore, go ahead, do me a favor, hit the like button, go ahead and get subscribed, because we are going to have some fun adventures here in Hardcore. Let's get started.
Hello, welcome back to everyone that was here from Season 1, and welcome to our 10 new members for Season 2. As you can see, we're in a different place this season. It's a little bit scarier than the last one, but that doesn't mean there isn't a load of fun, friends, and family along the way. Alien, stay out of caves. And to everyone else,
wow. Singled out.
Zeroed.
I know, right?
Everyone get going.
It's who?
Get going, Zero.
Is that it? 3, 2, 1, go.
Yeah, you know, the last
yet.
speech got me a little more excited, I will be honest.
Right.
You know,
It was
something about
boy.
Legends never dying, it just really got me hyped.
Well, you died, and I died.
We're a little bit more cautious this time.
Legends die.
Some legends die.
Go to die.
Legends never die, asterisks, except for the first attempt.
You're saying we can go now, but can you let us out of the
Let's
box?
go!
And after that inspired speech, we are off to the races. And the first order of business here in Minecraft Bedrock Hardcore is to get out of the deep forest that will get us killed. I hear zombies, I've seen creepers, and we are not starting at the beginning of the day. We are actually starting close to the end of the Minecraft day. So our first day here is actually going to be kind of short, but we're going to do a lot of the basic Minecraft stuff first. For number 1 on the list, chop down a tree and punch it to bits with your bare hands, because we are monsters and that is just what we do. Once we have all of this sorted, we're going to make our first crafting bench, and then we are going to get to work on making our first set of tools and all the other sorts of goodies that we need right away. This is going to be a little bit difficult for me because I have never played with the crafting recipes unlocked before. That's going to be hard for me, but we're going to try to do our best here. Now, typically what I do after I make my first set of tools is I come over here and I try to find some stone so I can immediately upgrade to some stone tools, because these wooden tools, they are just absolute garbage. I am also going to try to get as much of this coal that I possibly can, because the coal is going to have torches, and torches are going to keep mobs away, and keeping mobs away is going to keep us alive. So step 2 after doing everything we just did is also get these pumpkins, because these pumpkins right here are the reason that people died last season. There were people who stared into Endermen like a bunch of silly people, and they died. So we're going to make sure that we have pumpkins on us just in case we have an accident and we need to quickly get away from an Enderman. But we're going to make our first stone axe, then make a stone pickaxe here, also a stone sword. Typically, I will not keep a stone sword on me. I won't keep a sword of any kind on me, to be honest, because I'm more of an axe person. Axe or bust. I only like having one tool, and having multiple tools that kind of do the same thing, not my favorite thing in the whole wide world. But Rogue seems to have left some coal here, either out of negligence or because he really wanted me to have it. So we're going to go ahead and grab some more of this and get going along our way. Now, as I mentioned before, the secret to being alive is having a ton of coal so that you can light up the area around you. Now, we do have the benefit of there being lots of other content creators who might be able to take the fall for us and might also be able to help us stay alive this very first night. But the best way to stay alive if you can't get access to a bed is to keep the area around you lit up so that there is absolutely no opportunity for mobs to even get close to you. The biggest threat that you face here in Minecraft Bedrock Hardcore is going to be either a creeper or an Enderman. An Enderman, if you stare in it, it's a really bad day. A creeper can easily sneak up behind you, and the best way to avoid that is to just not let it happen in the first place. Day 1 also gets some day rain, which, as we all know, is the least favorite thing here on the server. But this day rain is a little bit cursed because we almost lost someone right away due to some stray lightning that fired off and nearly killed someone, which honestly wouldn't be a bad way to go, but being caught out here in the rain isn't really something that I want to be dealing with. I am going to grab some kelp, mainly because I don't know how we're going to stay alive without food, and we are able to smelt down kelp into really bad budget food, but I really want to get away from this rain and try to find a place that hopefully is a little bit better. So we're going to go ahead and grab my boat. I'm going to walk over here to Sunflower. There's that lightning right there. Try to convince her to hop in. And we are going to go find ourselves a cozy little place here along the coast to see if maybe there's a place that we can settle down. To close out day 1, we locate a village over here. People are already trying to sleep, but we do have player sleeping percentage on, so there does need to be a sizable portion of the people online in order for us to pass the night. So that's going to be a little bit interesting. This village is a godsend, though, because there is tons of goodies over here that will hopefully keep us safe. And if we can take advantage of these villagers, we might be able to extend our life. That lightning, though, is the biggest threat aside from the creepers. So we're going to scramble to see if we can find a bed. And if enough of us can get in a bed, we might be able to skip the night. But unfortunately, it doesn't seem like there's any beds over here. And that lightning is just straight up out to get us and get us murdered. Also, no one in this village sleeps. So we're going to go ahead and grab some wheat, grab some melons because they're a slightly better food source. And then we are going to find the one bed here in this village so that we can finally sleep through the night. Thank goodness we survived today. Day 2 begins with us taking our bed because we don't want anyone else to take it and trying to rescue that villager, but then giving up because baby zombies are the worst thing in the world and he was going to die anyway. So 1 day is under our belt. We need to make it to day 2. People have already started setting up this village and taking advantage of all the wonderful resources in it. And it looks like some people are probably going to settle, but our goal here is not to get settled yet because getting settled means nothing if we are ill-equipped for the adventures that lie ahead. So this spider right here is target number 1 because we'll get a string, which will either get us a fishing pole or a bow and arrow. Not quite sure which one yet. It depends on how many more pieces of string we're able to find, but I'm going to gather up as much of this wheat as possible, replant some of it, and then this is going to be our food source in order to make us through the next few days. As you can see here, right here, Sunflower and PJ nearly bit the dust right there, but they got ever so lucky thanks to some very, very, very good luck on that creeper. Looks like this is going to be a little bit trickier than some people might have imagined. We are going to nab this furnace here on day 2 because blast furnaces are very, very useful at smelting down ore, and we're just going to steal them all because we're super duper greedy. Our next step in order to survive is to find ourselves a little bit of iron that we can smelt down so that we can make a shield, because shields are the best thing that you can have, at least up until you have a totem of undying. I'm probably not going to get a totem of undying this season if I can get away with it, but we're going to set up a base right here real quick, place down our blast furnace, and throw that lovely piece of iron in. And then from there, we're going to go ahead and get our crafting bench down and start getting that shield in place. I'm not going to be collecting a lot of items. I am very much going to try to just stay alive and gather enough resources. So we're going to make up a few pieces of bread. I am going to use that piece of string for a bundle because bundles are useful. And that shield is how we're going to stay alive. So next step for day 2 is to go iron mining. Now, not far from the village, I managed to find this lovely cave system equipped with instant access down to the bottom. And because I am not afraid of anything whatsoever, I'm going to place down a few torches and then we are going to jump straight down into this water right down here, trusting that all the bugs and fall damage have been fixed in Minecraft Bedrock. And we are going to nab as much of this iron and coal as we possibly can. I am hoping to get decked out here in iron very, very very, very quickly, because the sooner that we're in iron armor, the sooner we are likely to not encounter a creeper that's going to just blow us up. I am going to be extra careful while I am mining down here because there are zombies, there's baby zombies, there's creepers, and I am buck naked at the time being, aside from this really, really budget shield, which really isn't going to save me. It's only going to keep me alive for a little bit longer. Fortunately, the bottom of this cave has a ton of free iron in it, which makes me optimistic that we'll at least be able to get a full set. Back at base, I've managed to make nearly a full set of armor, which means that we are fully decked out aside from a helmet, which I'm not going to be super worried about quite yet because I do want everyone to see my absolutely gorgeous face. But we are decked out in iron, which means that we're able to make our first iron pickaxe and hopefully another tool here real soon. But now that I'm feeling a little bit more confident in our situation, I am going to go down and make a few torches and mine out a few more pieces of iron just to see how much further we can make it here on day 2. Back down in the mines, we find some more iron, and we're also going to take advantage of the slime here because slimes will give us the opportunity to have leads, which means that we'll be able to corral some mobs eventually, most likely. Right now, my biggest focus, though, is getting iron, and there is so much iron over here that I am going to have enough iron to hopefully donate to a couple of other people because I do want others to stay alive while others are working on the village. Fortunately, slimes are easy to dispose of. As you can see right there, they just fall to pieces once you have a half-decent sword. I am going to be smart and place down some extra torches so nothing can creep up on me that I'm not expecting, and then harvest the rest of this iron. The rest of day 3 was just moving back and forth between the mines and our little makeshift base that we stole from a villager here, getting ourselves a helmet and gathering up as much more of this iron as we possibly can, just going back and forth over and over and over again until I felt that I was adequately equipped. By this time, I've also noticed that Merely Adequate himself has not died yet. I'm sure it has nothing to do with him not being with me, but, you know, hey, I won't judge people who they hang out with. We, however, are doing very, very well. It's time for us to start helping others around a little bit. So we're going to smelt up all this iron. As you can see there, I have about 45 pieces of iron, which is going to be enough to help gear up some of the people I really want to stick around for the rest of the season. And to make good on that promise, I came over here to Sunflower's base, where Sunflower was building above a really high distance with absolutely no armor whatsoever. So step 1 is to get her attention, which is sometimes a little bit difficult, but we're going to make her a full set of iron, at least sans the helmet, throw that down for her, get her attention if she'll ever come down here, and then be along our way. I also noticed at this moment that Rogue Fox was also hanging over here, so I went ahead and tried to grab his attention so that I could also give him some armor, because as a fellow Season 1 survivor, he absolutely deserves to have something a little bit more fancy. So I went ahead and equipped him as well, threw it right there on the ground for him, and then he was also decked out in iron, which means 2 of the people I really care about surviving are now ready to rip and roll. Day 4 continued in the mines, where I got right to work looking for more materials. I'm not yet brave enough to venture down super duper deep, but all of this coal and all of this iron right here is going to be incredibly valuable, because we're going to be able to make hoppers, we're going to be able to make all sorts of things, and also donate it away to a couple other people who might return the favor by building us some things. We did continue mining all of this. And because I'm super duper brave, I decided just to take on a creeper and grab some gunpowder. I didn't get the kill, but I did get it to explode, which I guess is something. The mining continued with great success. I did notice that my pickaxe was starting to get a little worn down, however, so I figured I'd grab the last few pieces of iron that I possibly could over here and probably head back home and spend the rest of the day smelting this down. Now, I'm not entirely sure what happened. I think I got distracted by a fair number of things. I did decide to light up this cave. I did see that zombie there, but I figured I could probably get this just in time. But as I turned around, I saw that that zombie was right on top of me, and my pickaxe broke, and I will not lie to you, my heart was beating quite fast, but I showed what a true professional I am by taking care of him, and immediately running outside, realizing I had probably pushed my luck a little bit too much. I chose not to look at that Enderman, unlike some other people who would look at it all day, every day, just for funsies, and then went straight back home because I realized I'd probably been pushing my luck just a little too far and definitely wanted to make sure that some others had access to this material. And I didn't die on like the first 5 days of the server. Come on, we can do a whole lot better than that. So coming back home, I decided to smelt down all of this iron, and while I was working on this, death number 2 happened. PLJ decided to go swimming and must have lost track of his breathing because he drowned. And we would later find out that he was actually 1 block away, halfway from breaking the block and escaping his watery demise, but unfortunately he just didn't make it. And that just goes to show you why you need to be careful in hardcore, because when you're playing on a normal server, you are usually very accustomed to having all sorts of enchantments that make your life easier, and when you suddenly don't have those, you might occasionally make a mistake, which I think is what happened with PLJ. But rip player number 2, player death number 1 was of course Puggy, who decided to punch an iron golem. That was very, very brutal, and I just chose not to show that because, well, yikes. That was just straight up bad decision making, and I don't want to judge him any further. Day number 5 here on the server had me looking at few of our unarmored friends and luring them into Sunflower's house, where I knew that they'd be safe so that we could don them with armor to keep them alive and protective. We had quite the collection of armor, and I felt it my duty to give to the less fortunate. So closing the door behind me because I'm scared of the dark, I tried to figure out how I can make some armor. So having cleared out my inventory, I also looked at Geo Girl and decided she needed some armor. So we got straight to work with making a couple of chest plates for them, throwing them on the ground, and then also making a couple pieces of leggings and also boots. Because, well, these seemed like they were more interested in wearing pumpkins of all the most ridiculous things. But having done our good deed for the day, we decided to shear our first sheep and also kill our first pig. Why we needed to do either of those things, I'm not entirely sure, but food is kind of scarce around here, which means we did need to hopefully get some additional food source going. Right now, I'm running on a little bit of bread and some meat that I've been harvesting from a few cows. I came over here and decided to show a couple of the folks where the supply of iron I've been mining at. Having taken the majority of the easy surface iron, however, they were going to need to venture just a little bit deeper down in the abyss. So I led them to where they needed to go and then promptly said goodbye because that was their problem from this point forward, not mine. Now, because one of my goals this season is to make sure that more people survive the night, actually, and make it further into the season, I decided to spend the rest of the day using all the coal and sticks that I had gathered and lighting up this town, especially along the paths, mainly so that we wouldn't have any mob spawn. So I proceeded to light this town up, keeping it as well lit as possible, making sure that I covered all the paths and a little bit further out as well, so that at least there wouldn't be any surprises that came up and spooked people. Day 6 for me started much later than day 6 for any others, so I logged into a whisper indicating that we have a trading hall starting to get ventured underneath here. So I figured that I would probably do Zero to Solid and help clear out all the garbage he decided to throw on the floor. I have no idea why he decided to throw all of his garbage right down here in front of me, but I figured he's working on something important for everyone else. I will just, I guess, take all of his trash. And since littering's a crime, I decided to take all of the things that he had and throw it promptly in the ocean, not realizing I threw away 2 perfectly good apples and a whole bunch of other really useful stuff because they weren't really useful to me. I don't know what I was thinking, but I figure if anyone wants them, they can come back there and pick them all up. I did see that Zeroed was using the trapdoor method, and we were just about to get our first set of villagers. Now, I wasn't planning on using villagers this season, but I do want others to survive a little bit better. Last season, we were very, very spread apart and a little bit disparate in how we were planning things. So with Zeroed locking in their trades, I figured I should really start spending the next couple of days making sure that we either had villagers moved over here or, more importantly, had their trades locked in with something useful. So for the rest of day 6, I did just that and then decided to chase Sunflower, trying to get her attention around this house like 6,000 times, also known as like 6 times. I don't know why she like refused. So eventually I just gave her a little love tap right there, finally got her attention, and then gave her the gift that I knew that she had been asking for this entire season, a jellied cat head along with a slime head. 2 special gifts for a very special friend. Something that I knew that she had been wanting her entire life. How did I know this? I don't know. I just know these things about people. So I placed these down for her, left them to her, and then proceeded to get right back to building out the rest of this villager trading hall. Also, for some reason, she wanted beetroot seeds, which is a very Moss Logic thing to do. But I figured, you know, she could have them and I'd get work on, you know, productive things while she was working on villager breeder related things. The gang also advised me that they were in desperate needs of slime so that they could have leads, so I took Grumpy Ref down here into the mines with me, showed him a couple of these slimes, helped him take care of a little bit. Just kidding, he didn't need my help at all. Tossed him as many as I could, made sure that he had access to all of them, and then headed back to the service to finish out the day. Day 7 here on the server also began in the mines. Night turned into day, and we were still mining away. We were gathering tons of iron because we were going to need iron to do for a couple of villager trades, and we were also hoping to run into maybe a zombie that we could use to start curing all the villagers that were over here to hopefully start getting some enchants set up. While lighting up the caves, we also happened to stumble across not only a zombie, but also a zombie villager. We thought that we might be able to take this with us, but there was a skeleton that was deciding to be annoying, and at the end of the day, we didn't have a really good way of bringing any this or the zombie villager back up with us. So we decided to take an axe to their face because they weren't just good looking enough to hang out with the rest of the crew, and unfortunately, that settled that debacle. Day 7 also proved that danger lurks around not this corner, but every corner here on Minecraft Bedrock Hardcore, where I saw this skeleton and thought I had avoided him, but bad luck allowed him to climb up, and I tried to block him off, and I just was not fast enough. I was hoping to eat to get my regen back, because regen's so slow. 3 hearts, 2.5 hearts. Fortunately, my shield was able to bounce that arrow back, but I will be honest with you, my heart was beating maybe 2 beats per minute faster than it would have otherwise. Yeah, it did get a little close there, but I wasn't worried because I knew that we'd be able to take him out either using a weapon or using a shield. Unfortunately, he didn't drop the ridiculously powerful bow he was using, but hey, that's just the way the cookie crumbles. I did decide at this point that it was probably time to get out of the mines, and decided also to see if we could maybe take a quick nap down here to advance the day. Ultimately, I decided just to place a few torches, make sure that this was spawn safe, make sure that nothing was going to spawn above us, while my incredibly slow bedrock regened, and then decided that maybe we will keep exploring after all. At the end of the day, though, I decided that I'd spent enough time down there and that we just needed to get out. So we waited for night to pass the day yet again, and here we arrived on day 8, where killing a cow was the first order of business. And with our daily dose of bread now satisfied, we turned our attention back to helping Sunflower and Zeroed continue to build out the villager trading hall that they had started on. Villagers are something that this crew really, really enjoys. So we didn't have anything good on him, but we did decide to set up this little ridiculous contraption right here where Sunflower would go and work at the village breeder, bring someone over in a boat. We would break the boat, usually with the person not in there, and then we would just flush him into a hole. We do have water at that bottom of the hole just so he doesn't take any fall damage. Little love tap, down he goes. Then we can cover his head, and villagers are now installed. We spent the next several days installing villagers and also checking their trades, clearing them as needed. Decided to lock a few of these guys in place so that we could raise them up so we'd have access to golden carrots. And finally, we had a decent food source. And as a thank you for Zeroed for deciding to waste all of his time down here instead of mine, even though I was helping, I decided to give him a half stack of the golden carrots that I had because he deserves a half decent food source while working down in here. We have plenty of pumpkins, plenty of melons, and at this point we realized that that guy had glistening melons, which made him basically completely useless to us. So he probably ended up dying a little later, but I'm not going to show you that here on the video because we don't like showing villager death here on the server. But just know that he doesn't live. This guy right here, I shouldn't have traded with him. He just doesn't live. On day number 12, I was really proud of all the work that the folks were doing down here, so I decided to bake a few people some cakes. And I tried chasing them down to get their attention, and no one seemed interested, so I had to go around and wave it in a few of their faces, but eventually I got their attention, brought the cakes back over here to the villager trading hall, and then placed them right on top of these villager stalls right here, so that everyone could come and enjoy a little slice of heaven. That night, though, we weren't messing around, and we decided to have darkness fall upon the server without waiting for any of the server sleep to happen. You see, we were in need of some way to cure these villagers so that we could get their prices down lower because the villagers are expensive. So we did the famous trick of making sure that we could have a spawn-proof zombie since we lacked a villager with name tags by throwing items in front of them and hoping that they would pick them up. Apparently, there is a little trick here that, well, when you place down an item, sometimes a zombie will pick it up. Sometimes they won't. Usually they won't. But if you can get one to pick one up, that will make them mostly persistent, which will make trading them out later. We did nearly have an accident over here with Zeroed saying hi to a creeper, but it turns out that Zeroed is perfectly capable, as we all know. I decided to give this guy an item, and it just wasn't working, so he decided to get an axe to the face. We continued pressing our luck when a good friend, also known as two angry llamas, decided to start spitting at one another. I don't know why they got in that spat, but apparently there was a skeleton that made them both mad, and, well, that skeleton just had to go. We tried throwing another item down for this zombie, but he didn't want to take the bait. So, like his brethren, he got a sword to the face because I didn't want to use any more damage on my axe. At this point, an Enderman decided to show up, and because I'm not afraid of anything, I decided to demonstrate how you deal with Endermen. First and foremost, you lay down a boat. Secondly, you get those Endermen to walk into the boat, and because you're super duper brave and don't fear anything, you make sure that your friend is watching so that you have video evidence of it, and then you take your favorite weapon and then you smack the Enderman with it. But as a safety net, you also make sure you have a place that you can go into in case things go horribly wrong, you know, so the Enderman can't touch you. But we're not afraid of anything. We gave this Enderman a few smacks. He died, he stayed in the boat, and he dropped us our first Ender Pearl, which would prove to be very, very useful. We also picked up a zombie villager over here, but none of these guys wanted to pick up anything, and we didn't want to use a zombie villager for reasons. I can't remember what those reasons are, but there were reasons. I also decided to take down this pumpkin thing, but Zeroed said that he was actually using it, which me tearing it down made it completely useless. So I apologized and rebuilt it really quick. And after a very unsuccessful night of not capturing anything, we managed to capture a llama in a boat, which I didn't know was something that you could still do in Bedrock because the large mobs don't fit in boats, and decided that that was probably the extent of our night raiding that we were going to end up doing. Having been super unsuccessful in our attempts in order to fetch a working zombie and not wanting to keep the rest of the server in perpetual suspense as we kept night on the server, Zeroed and I, instead of deciding to get good, we decided to get smart. And our strategy was that we were going to dig a really, really dark tunnel that mobs could spawn in, and then we'd use this dispenser and also a trapdoor in order to place a helmet on top of it. So, you know, we'd place something like this, then we'd get the zombie to walk over it. The zombie would then have armor equipped, and then hopefully that would make him spawn proof. Zero decided that he was going to dig a 1-wide tunnel here instead of a 2-wide, even though we need to bring a zombie through here. But he went down there and started digging while I watched uselessly while he did all of the work. As a reward for staying out of his way, Zeroed assigned me on trash duty so that I could remove all of the useless blocks that he collected. So in order to ensure that I wasn't littering and that we weren't littering anywhere on the server, I decided to throw all the stuff that he gave me directly into the ocean where it would eventually despawn. This continued for quite some while because Zeroed was very intent on finding trash down in the bottom of a cave for me, and I wasn't exactly sure where he was getting all of this from, but I figured Zeroed probably knows best. I did decide that not to throw away this flint because at some point we would need flint and steel for a nether portal, even though I imagine most people aren't quite ready for it. And I had quite a bit of items at this point and decided that we need to put some back away inside of this chest so that we were not being completely useless and could actually take more than one trip as opposed to two. I did decide to grab this lever and then proceeded to spend the rest of the day trading with this Fletcher in order to get enough emeralds to hopefully get some weakness arrows that we would be able to use to cure the others, so that by the time Zeroed has finished mining out everything over there, we would be able to cure all of these villagers, or at least some of them. So as night fell on day 15, Zeroed and I got lucky and we found not one, but two zombie villagers down here that we were hoping we would be able to wrangle up. Now, getting them out of this boat and getting the hold stuff proved to be a little bit difficult, but I convinced Zeroed that the method of giving them an item would work just perfectly. And to demonstrate that, I failed spectacularly at getting the thing I just told him I promised would work to actually work. So I told Zeroed what we really needed to do was break the boat and have two zombies chase us down this really creepy hallway while we try to get an item on them. So with a little bit of persuasion, we got one of the zombies lined up. I put a gold helmet on him. And then I proceeded to take back my dispenser and my lever that I had right there, even though Zeroed tried to steal it from me by placing a rock in front of it. And we would be ready to start curing our villagers very, very, very soon. All we needed to do was get the remainder of the items that we need, which would be enough gold for a golden apple. Day 16 largely consisted of getting even more villagers upgraded and then also doing some more trades so that we could hopefully unlock this villager right here who'd give us a little bit of redstone and also all the ender pearls that we would eventually need in order to make it to the end. We also put in this grindstone, which we had a villager in place for, but we were having a little bit of trouble of getting that villager to come down here. So while Zeroed and Phantom decided to take care of that, I went to go check on our villager and nearly panicked because he wasn't here. And I was very, very scared. And I was telling him, guys, our villager has disappeared. And they're like, what? No, it's not fair. He shouldn't have. So I went to go check and boop, there he is right there. He's just hiding behind a corner. I didn't like the way that he was hiding. So I tried to make sure that he was boxed in enough that he wouldn't be able to do that again. Because man, that was not super duper friendly of him. But I didn't want him being here in the dark because I know how much zombie villagers hate being in the dark. So I gave him a little nightlight to make sure that he was super duper comfy. Having attended to our zombie villagers' needs, we decided it was finally time to allow him to eat and nibble at the toes of this villager. And I'll be honest with you, this didn't work. For some reason, this zombie villager absolutely refused to have anything to do with this villager. We tried everything. We tried raising him up. We tried putting him down. We tried talking nice to him. We tried talking not so nice to him. No matter what we did, he would not nibble at our villagers' feet. And we weren't entirely sure why that was the case. So after 3 days of trying and there being nothing but pain and suffering involved in the process, we did what all great creators do, and we gave up. And fortunately found this other zombie over here who was fortunately not only wearing armor, but also trapped somehow in a boat and holding an item, which would make him hopefully able to survive. So I spent the next day gathering up the resources I need to get him trapped in here so he wouldn't go wander off or worse, turn into a drown. And then we got to work moving him over. With the zombie finally out of the boat from underneath, I proceeded to bait him all the way over to a dedicated little spot that we had prepared for him, where I would run through and then the zombie would be tricked, ha 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 ha, he's a dumb zombie, into falling through a trapdoor right behind the villager that we had prepared and hopefully start nibbling at his feet. He fell right in as planned, but we then proceeded to also have troubles with this zombie. We were very, very excited to have him, but he was not very, very excited to get to work nibbling at him. Nothing we could do could convince this zombie to nibble at this villager's feet. Finally, we identified that the trap door was most likely the issue, so I boxed him in, broke this right here so he could jump, and he went right away at nibbling at that villager. And finally, we had one villager who was zombified. And at this point, we now needed them to actually stay separated, so without killing both of them. So very, very gingerly, I managed to somehow get a block placed right up here to separate them from quarreling. And we had our first zombie villager all set and ready to finally be cured. And with him being cured, we'd be able to get more weakness arrows on the cheap and start curing all the others. Our bad luck persisted, though, with us not being able to get this villager cured until finally he decided to eat the apple. It turns out that Zeroed had not shot him with a weakness arrow, which is funny in his own right if we hadn't nearly almost killed him. But don't worry, we're professionals. We always know exactly what we're doing. The silliness is solely for your entertainment. On day 21, Phantom decided he wanted to be a villager, so I decided to tickle his feet.
Oh my god. I fell into a hole.
Don't do that.
I think I'm a villager now.
Hold on, I'm gonna tickle your
Don't
feet.
tickle my
there,
feet.
done
No,
that.
don't do it.
Give me good trades or I'll tickle them.
No.
I then proceeded to spend the next 10 days transporting villagers to and from Sunflower's villager breeder after everyone had logged off, and then proceeding to try to get some of these villagers some decent librarian trades. On day 33, I got sick and tired of playing with villagers, so I decided to give a piece of raw cod to this cat, and I made 2 cats love me, and I made them have a baby, so I started a small army of cats. I have no idea why I started a small army of cats, other than I was so bored of villager trading, because it is the least exciting thing to be doing here on Minecraft Bedrock. On day 34, between Phantom supplying the diamonds and me providing some of the bookshelves, we finally had our first enchanting table, which I imagine that some people would use, even though XP was relatively scarce right now. But we did have that set up, and I proceeded to spend the rest of the day working on getting some more bookshelves to put around that so that we could have a level 30 enchanting table. I also decided to grab the copious amounts of lapis that I have and come over here and try my luck at the enchanting table, knowing full well I likely wouldn't get anything good, but we decided to roll it anyway with looks like our boots and our leggings, and it turns out that we already had enchantments on those from the villagers, so you can't enchant stuff. So I decided to see if we could do something with our pickaxe, got nothing good, tried to do something with our bow, got nothing good, and then finally decided that maybe enchanting just wasn't for me. To calm myself, I brought my baby kitten over here next to Alien's blue bird in hopes that they would eat one another, or at least mine would eat the bird, and proceeded to lock it in, knowing full well that there'd be no consequences for my actions. Day 35, I was still tired of trading with villagers, so I came over here and mined this gold that someone had just left. I'm not entirely sure why, and proceeded to go down this shared mining tunnel in hopes that I would find something half decent, which I didn't. I continued to trade back and forth with villagers on day 35, moving more and more of them in, hoping that I could get some half decent librarians. And as it was getting late, I finally got super duper lucky and we got an efficiency 5 villager. I proceeded to find a way to lock his trade in, discovered that he was linked to the wrong station, which really kind of sucked, wrote the names down, and then proceeded to work on some even more villagers. By this point, I had a mending villager, an efficiency 5, looting 3, and then also a fortune villager, which was going to hopefully prove to be half decent. Getting these villagers in is really just a huge pain, to be totally honest, especially when you get their workstations mixed up, because they like to link to the wrong ones, which means you have to like move the workstations back and forth like that. Hopefully they linked to the right one, then you can link him back up, and then everything was finally good again. I did place the sign back because I am a nice person. And after a few more days of doing that, I decided we needed to finally cure one villager to hopefully get these iron prices down. So I trapped a zombie villager in with one of our very first villagers right here. Noticed that he really didn't want to play nice, but of course he played nice for me eventually. And eventually I got this villager all sorts of zombified. I came back around here to the back, tried to convince this guy that he really didn't want to be there by having him chase me, then realized that he was going to start going after all the other villagers, so I ran down this hallway, trying to lure him to follow me. came over here. He seemed not interested in a while, which I thought was very, very strange. But eventually he decided that the taste of player was better than that of zombie. So I placed down a boat and got him trapped in there and left him with his nightlight because I'm a very, very nice person, even if the thing is trying to nip at my toes. I tore down a little bit of the mess that I made, placed a block here so that that guy would be boxed back in, then proceeded to gather materials I need to cure him. I grabbed my golden apple, made sure that I only had a weakness arrow on me, gave him just the ever slightest little bit of love tap, realized I didn't want him flinging backwards by accident, so did that from behind, gave him the golden apple, and then he started his little shimmy. And while he was shimmying, then I actually replaced the block. And apparently you can have floating gravel if you have a trapdoor right below it. Who knew? I hope no one ever comes over here to tries to fix that because they will have an absolute nightmare of a time. By day 41, I had a pretty good system. I had set up this little island over here full of sugarcane that while I was working would regrow rather quickly, and I could use this to convert all of the sugarcane down into paper, which then I could use to either make into books or that I could use to trade directly with the other villagers. By this point, however, I noticed that there was starting to become a little bit of lag on the server, most likely due to the copious amounts of cows over here. I also needed beef and a little bit of leather so that I could make some books, so I decided to just go postal on all of these cows, taking them out one by one until there was nothing left of them. And I will tell you, this was extremely therapeutic for me. I really needed this out of my system. It was very, very painful dealing with this constantly. After my therapy session was completed, I did regrow some of these cows and have them start making more babies and making those babies turn into adults so that they could come back into full-grown cows. And then having gambled with the lotto machine that is the enchanting table, I made a fully set up enchanting table and decided to roll my luck with this. Decided to grab a level efficiency 3 pickaxe and didn't have anything good on the axe, but I decided to take some of this armor that I had made and broken down. Got nothing really good on the armor, but I looked at the helmet and decided to take the protection 2 because it was going to be what it was going to be. Slap the armor on again. Look at that, protection 2 on that too, which made me feel a little bit more comfortable in my current situation. On the sword, nothing good. Grabbed the smite 2, unbreaking 2 on the axe. Nothing really good. Nothing really good at all. It was really quite disappointing, so I just grabbed the sharpness 1. And on day 42, I decided that I was so sick and tired of dealing with villagers that I was just going to take my string and go fishing. And I would go fishing for the next 35 days. And after tons of fishing and only getting 1 mending book and a half-decent bow, I did manage to pull this out.
You want, like, the world's second best bow. I can give it to you.
I just threw infinity on this one. It's unbreaking 2, power 2. That's enough for now. It's fine.
So the plan starting on day 77 for me was to get enough gold that we could start curing these villagers. So I commissioned Zero to log onto the server, and we decided to head out to the closest badlands and desert, which was unfortunately 6,000 blocks away. So when I logged back onto the server, it was day 73, and someone had installed an iron farm. It looks like Sunflower Head did that, and we had quite the collection of goodies from our fishing expedition. We had a trident that we managed to pull, a saddle, 1 mending book, and then a couple of other goodies, including this half-decent fishing rod, and also a pretty good A-tier rod. It did have a Curse of Vanishing on it, but hey, this is Bedrock Hardcore. If it vanishes, not really our problem. So after getting geared up, it was now day 79, and we were indeed ready to begin our adventure over to the Badlands. Zero and I both hopped in a boat, and we headed out on our adventure. On day 80, we stumbled across this ruined nether portal, decided that we were going to loot it. We checked inside the chest and found nothing but a bell of disappointment. Our ears were ringing, but we decided to take the bell with us, leave all the rest of the junk stuff, and then decided that it might be worthwhile to actually take all of the other pieces of obsidian just in case we needed it. But then we decided that we actually didn't need it, so we decided it was a terrible idea and we would keep rowing. The rowing continued until we reached land, but the sun was setting and Zero really wanted to stop and smell the roses, so we set up a quick little camp. I placed around a couple of torches so that nothing would spawn, grabbed my bed, and we decided to sleep the night all the way until day 81. Feeling refreshed, we decided to continue pressing on as there was many oceans and many pieces of land that still stood between us and the badlands we desperately needed to find in order to gather the gold that we need. On our journey through the overworld, because we were too much of a coward to go straight through the Nether on the first go, we did find this lovely mushroom island about 5,000-ish blocks away. We figured this could be a nice safe place to set up camp for the rest of the month, but eventually decided that it would probably be best if we hung out with the rest of the group, so we passed on by it, then stumbled upon yet another end portal that was broken up. We saw a piece of gold above it, so we decided to grab it, and this one we decided we actually were going to take the obsidian, but I really just wanted the crying obsidian because I think crying obsidian looks pretty half decent, even though it has absolutely no functional use whatsoever, and we weren't really sure what we were going to do, but eventually we came up with the plan that we take the obsidian with us so that we could make a portal, and then we could use that portal to get all the way back home rather than boating all the way over, because frankly, this boating trip had already taken us roughly an hour. We boated through the remainder of the evening all the way into my day 82, and then at the end of the day, we finally arrived in the Badlands, moving us into day 83. Now we figured that on day 83 we would finally find some gold, but we went down our first cavern and we found absolutely nothing. It was a major source of disappointment. We were expecting to find a mine shaft basically directly below us, but it never appeared, which means it would be super duper low and below the level that gold would normally spawn. So we decided to cut our losses and found ourselves another shallow ravine, hoping that we would find gold a little bit in here. And boy, oh boy, did we find the cavern that we were looking for. Not only did we find a big old cavern, but we also found a baby zombie. And look at this teamwork. Teamwork makes the dream work here on Hardcore on Bedrock Legends. We took out that baby zombie like we actually knew what we were doing. But this cave was dark and scary. Lots of creepy mobs. We whipped out our bows, very quickly took care of all the zombies. There was, I believe, a witch down here somewhere, but we made very short, quick work of him as well. And after lighting up the cave, we finally were able to get our hands on some of this coveted gold. We were being super duper careful, super duper conscientious of everything that was going on. We were going in and out of this cave, getting everything that we needed, absolutely no problems whatsoever. But Zero and I found some mobs, so we had to pause for just a second and weren't able to get to bed right away. So I tried to hop into bed as soon as we took care of those mobs, and it looks like we were about to skip today. Everything was going well, and then the game sort of paused for a moment, which had me really worried. And then I looked in the upper left-hand corner, and I didn't see the death message that had happened because it happened at the exact same time that I had slept. So Zero and I continued along our course, you know, just mining gold casually, doing everything that we needed to do, when suddenly we got this message, which confused Zero and I very, very much because we did sleep. And it was at that moment that I looked at the chat log and noticed that he had died while we had slept. So, sorry, Oatmeal. It was nice knowing you, but kind of not our fault, but still very sorry because that happened while we were trying. Anyway, we explored a little bit more around this cave, found a couple more pieces of gold, then decided that we actually had enough and we could make our way back. Zero and I then proceeded to spend the next 2 days aimlessly roaming the desert as if we were lost. And he tried to convince me to go down here to this bubble column, but I decided I'm not that brave because I don't have Aqua Affinity or Depth Strider or Respiration on. And as you can see, those bubbles were going through me pretty quick, but we found quite the collection of dripstone, which we figured we would need for a lava farm, and I was very cowardly here because I didn't want to die at all. However, Zero pointed out that there was a bubble column down here, so I did decide to give it a little bit of a shot, knowing full well that it worked, but candidly, I don't like being underwater like this, so I decided that we would grab what little dripstone we could and then book it out of here. Continuing on day 86, we found one other cave where Zero had proceeded to go first to clear the mobs. I lit the way with torches behind him and then proceeded to pick up all of the gold. If you're wondering why I stay alive, it's because I make really smart decisions and make other people do all the work for me. I did my fair share, though, at the beginning, so having someone else help out in this process was really helpful. And candidly, Zero and I make a really great team, pretty much doing whatever. So while he continued to go down there, I would just nab the gold, then I would follow right behind, light up some torches here, make sure nothing spawned behind him, and then continue to grab all this so we didn't have to grab it on our way back. By the end of day 86, 0 to 9, we're feeling pretty confident. We split the gold between us in case anything happened, and then proceeded to find a spot that we could set up a nether portal to travel to the nether for the long, arduous journey back home. On day 87, we lit the nether portal. Zero went through first because he's super duper brave, and apparently I'm no longer brave. I'm just really good at staying alive. But as he went through, we both realized that we had made a terrible and horrible mistake. Yeah, neither of us were wearing gold. So he walked right into a whole bunch of piglins, and I decided, yeah, I'm actually going to help out a bit. So I chunked down some of the gold I had, threw it inside of a furnace, and proceeded to make us 2 helmets that we could use so that we would both be mildly protected from at least the crazy piglin-loving monsters that were all in the nether. With both of us now equipped with gold helmets and feeling a little bit more brave, I resorted my inventory and then decided it was time for us to venture into the abyss. Man, I'll tell you, these bundles, they make life a little bit easier. I use one for all of my tools, but let me tell you, they are very convenient to have around. So with day 87 drawing to a close, I myself ventured into the nether for the very first time, and well, nothing really happened because everything was very nice. It was a very exposed nether, but Zero had made a nice little camp, and we decided we were going to tear down this portal so that we could make a new portal at the coordinates that we needed to back at the Savannah village that we were living at. Now, fortunately, we were only about 700 blocks away along the diagonal, which means that we wouldn't have to travel that long, but this is what we would need to be dealing with here in the nether, and man, Zero and I were quite good at taking pot shots at these gas. So we finished tearing down this nether portal. We split the items evenly between us just in case anything bad happened, knowing full well that nothing bad would happen. And then we proceeded on our way back home. We spent roughly the next 2 days traversing the nether until we finally stumbled across this bastion, which was very cool. But we decided that we weren't going to go bastion hunting today. I would go take care of that another time and get more of the gold that we needed. We figured it probably wasn't worth us to lose all the gold that we had for more gold. So we left the bastion where it was, and with about 100 extra blocks left to go along the Z coordinate, we needed to continue along our X coordinate until we found closer to Y80. Getting through this nether, though, proved to be very challenging because we had to navigate some of these forests, and we heard a nasty rumor that killing the hoglins didn't work with arrows anymore, which had us very concerned. That fear, however, turned to be completely unfounded, and we nearly jumped to our deaths down in lava. And we decided we weren't actually going to do that, so we instead proceeded to build a portal all the way up here rather than trying to dig down, and then we would correct the portal situation back at the home base another day. So originally I was going to put a portal right here, but Zero pointed out I should just put it on top of the other portal, so I did exactly what he should do, but only after I built the portal here first, which proved to be a really dumb idea because I then had to rebuild the portal all over again. So having pointed out my mistake, I then proceeded to tear down the portal, get it built in the right place, and then we lit the portal then headed back to the Savannah Village, commencing day 90. It was nighttime when we arrived, so we decided to take a quick nap and then proceeded to sort all of our items back here in the villager chest, with me throwing away some of the things that I had picked up along the way into my little home base. We threw all the gold that we had collected into these furnaces to smelt them all down, and then proceeded to wait until we finally had enough gold to make more golden apples. On day 92, I decided to make a composter because I'm famous for 3 things: my cardigans, my apple pies, and my bone meal farm. So I went here into my inventory where I had all these leftover useless blocks that were just taking up space and being totally useless, and threw them into this composter until I finally had a single piece of bone meal. I actually did quite a bit of this because I wanted quite a bit of bone meal so that I can make some flowers a little bit later. Once I had that piece of bone meal, I decided that we really needed to go raid a few bastions for some more gold. So I hopped into the Nether, and after painfully arriving from the loading screen, searching around, unable to find the exit, I went down to the sign that said Second Village, where eventually I dug a hole in the wall, and thanks to the help of some coordinates, managed to find myself a bastion. So, after very, very carefully scouting out the place, I decided to place down a few torches to see if that would help at all, and then decided to make a quick escape ladder, just in case a horde of piglins and zombified piglins and hoglins decided to chase after me. At least I'd have a quick and easy way in order to get out of this. I very quickly decided that jumping down was not in my best interest and realized that part of the bastion had actually grown into the wall here. So after saying a few words to the camera and burrowed my way into the wall, hoping that in this treasure bastion I would somehow find a few netherite trims. Now, there was a very large drop that surrounded me on all sides, so I was very, very eager to be very, very careful. I was trying to be cognizant of everything around me, making sure that my helmet was on, carefully navigating the stairs, trying to avoid anything, when I stumbled across this room and spied a chest. And no, not one, but 2 chests. And I glanced in the first chest, and look at that. There's a netherite template right there. So basically I figured I was done, but I decided since this was so easy, I'd look in this chest, and look at that, another netherite smithing template. I don't know how that happened, but I'm very, very grateful for it. So after collecting all the blocks in there, I decided that I was going to keep pressing onwards and press my luck, and I found the entrance to the most scariest place here, and I decided that we should get rid of the hoglins because nobody likes hoglins, so I threw him off a cliff. Decided to get rid of this guy right here, missed 3 times because of a little bit of server lag. He eventually bounced back, and then eventually he died, and then that was the end of him. I turned my attention to the little baby, but missed the shot, unfortunately, and decided to leave him to his business. But of course, not wanting to fall in here, I decided to take out that other hoglin right there, and then build myself up just a little bit of a barricade, just in case something bad happened, knowing full well that this was a completely pointless endeavor, because nothing bad is ever going to happen. I then made my descent into the treasure bastion, taking out the piglins and the piglin brutes as I went along, but trying to be very, very careful because one fall, one boop, one arrow shot from these guys would result in a whole lot of pain. So carefully, I descended back down another level, raided this treasure chest, didn't almost see this guy right here, which would have been very, very bad, but I took him out, took out this guy on this lower level, then started to make my staircase all the way down to the actual treasure room. As I was descending, I noticed that there was this gold dude here who was just really, really upset, and I realized I might be in some actual trouble because he had a crossbow and it was strong, but apparently 2 shots from my bow was better. Bummer to be him. I took out this other piglin brute right here, and then with him out of the picture, I began my descent down the stairway. A few of the magma cubes started to spawn, but they were no trouble for me whatsoever, and because I absolutely hate froglight farms on any server, I came over here and I completely destroyed this so that no one could ever make a froglight farm anywhere close to spawn ever again. I know, I'm a horrible person, but we each have our own needs. After that, I took care of all the gold. Quite a collection, quite a haul. Cleared out every little bit since there's nothing that they could do with me except for the slime right here who decided he was going to be super duper annoying. Got this last piece of gold right here and then hopped in this treasure chest to steal anything else that was worthwhile in it. After that, I made my way back up and nearly had a heart attack when I saw all these guys here, but remembered that we were best buddies now because I was wearing gold and had all their items in my inventory. So I just walked right past them and we escaped out of the treasure bastion. I thought that this was the way, nearly jumped down, but decided I didn't want to die today. So I came back over here to where the exit is and made it on out. While I was over here, I decided to silk touch pick some of these glowstone just so that I'd have enough. Realized I didn't have any inventory space and that they had all fallen to the floor. So I made some inventory space and then I tried again to harvest them. And after getting my fill, we headed back home. On day 94, I decided to go back into the Nether to find more gold and get some netherite armor and some ancient debris. I found another treasure bastion, which I raided and got all the gold from. Unfortunately, I didn't get the gilded blackstone because I'm a dummy and kept forgetting that I need to use silk touch on it, which of course made everyone very angry and made me very, very disappointed in myself. But we got all the gold and then I just decided to pillar right on out of there. Another day passed in the overworld while I was on my expedition, so I decided it was finally time for me to start bed bombing down here in the Nether. So I got rid of all the useless junk that was in my inventory, leaving me with only some wood and some of the wool that I had brought along with me. Whipped up about a half a dozen beds, at least as much that would fit inside of my inventory. And then I began my personal crusade against the ground. Yes, I'm brave. I don't require a potion of fire res, and I proceeded to bed bomb here in the Nether until I was happy that the ground had been thoroughly put down. Returning to the overworld on day 97, I took all of the ancient debris that I had gathered, all 20 pieces, and I proceeded to smelt it down in a beautiful blast furnace. And after an embarrassingly long time trying to remember exactly how you make netherite trim on your armor, I eventually remembered you needed a smithing table and also the templates that I had so painstakingly gotten, and then proceeded to put a netherite on every piece of armor I have, making myself feel very, very, very bougie. On day number 98, I convinced Adequate to go on an adventure with me, and together we ventured into the depths of the end, wearing our pumpkin heads, because while we're both very, very brave and very, very dumb, we're not dumb enough to go to the end without a pumpkin head on and let an Enderman kill us in hardcore. And after making a few necessary trail repairs due to the insanity that people are making single wide bridges here in the end, we proceeded to find ourselves an open portal that had already been opened since the dragon had already been slain, and began our adventure across the abyss that is the wastes of the end. Day 98 ended with what we thought would be massive success, a beautiful, huge end city, but much to our disappointment, despite every resource telling us it should have an end ship, this end city had absolutely nothing in it. And to make matters worse, we discovered that there was broken chunk generation in the city and that shulkers were disappearing in and out absolutely everywhere. So we decided to cut our losses and begin day 99 searching for yet another city. Day 99 had us traveling yet another 3,000 blocks until we finally found an end city that had our first ship at it, which means that we would finally be able to get our elytras. We carefully began our ascent, taking out the doormen, then proceeded to take out all of the shulkers upwards in the trial section of the end city, which Adequate says he doesn't like, but I really, really enjoyed. We then proceeded to clear across this spooky gap where I knew a shulker was eyeballing me. I was very, very careful, trying not to get hit. I did not want to die. I was very, very worried that something bad would happen. As right as I jumped, I got hit. But nothing really happened because I'm really, really good at this game. And then I proceeded to take care of this dude, then nab our first elytra. I took all of the goodies from that chest, then used what little rockets I have to scout out another end city so that I could find merely Adequate an elytra, stole the chest from that, killed all the shulkers in it, and then grabbed an elytra for him. Coming back, I, as a birthday present for surviving 100 days in hardcore, allowed Adequate to struggle making a trapdoor, and here we are. 100 days in Minecraft Bedrock Hardcore. It's probably a little bit different than what your 100 days might have looked like, and it's probably different than what 100 days in other people's Bedrock Hardcore looks like. But this is what mine looks like. It's unique, it's special, it's what I did here on Bedrock Legends. That's going to be it for this episode. As always, thank you so much for watching. If you want to see maybe what 200 days might look like, make sure you leave a like, make sure that you subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Goodbye, beautiful pixels.